If you're wondering what is a case statement in fundraising, well, that's one of my favorite subjects, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what a case statement is for fundraising. Stay with me. So one of my favorite topics is to talk about fundraising case statements. So if wondering what is a fundraising case statement, it is your investment prospectus. Now, that kind of sounds like business talk, and it is, because you know what? A lot of your donors or people who are going to invest in your nonprofit are business people. I mean, the high wealth individuals typically made their money somehow in some type of a business. So what you'll hear from them sometimes is they say, we need a business plan. What does your business plan look like? Most of us in nonprofits, we go, business plan? I mean, we're a nonprofit. I mean, this is something that comes from the heart, right? But really what they're asking us for is they want something that they can read, they can look at, and they can say, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. I see where you're going. And yes, I'm willing to invest in it. A case statement is not just a one-page document. Sometimes people will do like the front and back of one piece of paper with just the case for who the nonprofit is. That's not enough. Yes, a case statement is a case for why to invest in the nonprofit, but you need enough information in there so that people will feel like, hey, they know what they're doing. I've had two different instances where either the volunteer committee or the board said, oh, nobody will read that. I mean, who's going to read 10 to 20 pages talking about our nonprofit? Well, here's what we know. The people who want to read the whole thing will read it. Those who don't want to read the whole thing, they will skim it and they will get the information they need. But you need to provide enough information so that the person who wants to know exactly what does your nonprofit do and why should I invest in it, they have that information in front of them. One nonprofit, the board said, oh, we don't need that. We're a new nonprofit and nobody's going to read it. Well, we had a living room event, and there were about 40 people that attended the living room event just to kind of introduce the nonprofit. And we had the case statements laying on the table. So as they left the home, there was a gift for them, a hat with the logo of the nonprofit and the case statement. We had about 20 laid out of the 40 that we did. Every single one of the case statements were taken. People would stop the executive director in town and say, who wrote that? I mean, that's like the best case statement I've ever read. I know exactly what you all do now. Then I had another instance where we were doing a campaign. It was a pretty fast campaign. We had 2 months to raise over $500,000 for, it was a conservation easement on land. And again, our volunteer committee was awesome, but they said nobody's going to want to read that. So the first meeting, I had the case statements and said, please take these with you. People reluctantly took one. Some people might have taken two. They came back the next week for the next meeting and said, people love this. I hope you have a lot more. And we ended up raising the money we needed to for that campaign. And I really think a lot of it had to do with that case statement. It's that investment prospectus. So that's the first thing that your nonprofit has to do in its case statement. The second thing is it needs to be emotional but rational. So you may say to me, Robin, I mean, like, how do you go two ends of the spectrum? Emotional, rational, aren't those like two different things? The emotional pieces are the stories. They're the people who your organization has helped, affected, made a change their life. And so you're going to tell those stories throughout your case statement. It's not going to be like a business plan that just has list of statistics after statistics, how many people are you going to contact, where's the money going to come from. They have the stories, they have the quotes, and you have pictures. You have pictures of who your organization's helping. You have pictures of whether it's a gardens or it's a land organization or it's helping the homeless or whatever your organization does. It needs to be visually demonstrated. You know the old saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, in your case statement, it is too, because some people will read some of the words, but they'll always look at the pictures. Okay, so it needs to be an investment perspective, and it also needs to be emotional and rational. The third thing is it needs to include who is running this organization, who are the board members, who is the board chair, and not just their names, but something about them. Why are they even interested in this organization? Why are they involved in this organization? And then you, as the executive director or whoever's the executive director, also needs a board bio, and it's not a boring bio, but it's a bio that people can relate to as to why this person's involved with this nonprofit. And then you want to have pictures of your board members too, because we connect this way with pictures. And your picture too if you're executive director or whoever's executive director, because when people give to a nonprofit, they want to feel comfortable in the leadership of the nonprofit. They want to feel comfortable in the board of the nonprofit so that they know that their money is going to be well used and they've put it in a good place. And then the majority of what your case statement will be are going to be stories. Stories, quotes, anything that's going to grab that person. You know what, I had a speech coach one time that what he used to tell me was that he said, you know, in the old days of the movie theater, you had the little guy who had to run all the way up the top of the stairs to the balcony, and he had to actually switch on the movie projector to start the movie that you were going to watch. And he said, Robin, whenever you do any presentations, whenever you write a story, you need to be sure that you've got somebody up there turning on that projector, because we want to turn that projector on for our potential donors. Turning that projector on means that the story goes from being our participant's story to being their story, to being the person who's reading its story. And what that sounds like is the person who is reading it says, oh, I remember when I felt like that as a kid. Oh, I remember when my neighbor's kid had that happen. I remember when my child had that happen. I remember just last week I felt like that. So whatever it is that's going to grab them, it's that hook, the hook that you're going to get them to want to read your case statement. Because when they finish reading that, they're going to be invested in your organization. So that's what a case statement is. Those are 4 easy steps that you can do to a great case statement. It needs to be like a business plan, an investment prospectus. It needs to be emotional and rational. It needs to include leadership, board bios, executive director bios, and it needs to have stories, pictures, anything to grab them. Well, thanks so much for being here today. I do lots of videos on lots of different topics around the nonprofit world. I've been called a nonprofit therapist because I do a lot of coaching for nonprofit organizations. If you subscribe to my YouTube channel, you'll see that I put videos up all the time to help you, and they're totally free. You can just come watch and learn whatever you need to. And you can always email me at fundraiser@robinthompson.com. I'd love to talk with you. Thanks for being here.